Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are hearing from an athlete who started competing in the figure division in 2008 before bikini was even formed. She became an IFBB Pro at NPC Universe in 2021 after competing in 10 national level shows, which started in 2015. She works as a partner development manager, unless that's since changed, which I probably should have asked her. But anyway, she's been doing that for years now, and she's married to her high school sweetheart, who she has 2 children with. And I had the pleasure of connecting with this woman at a seminar not too long ago, and I was just really impressed by her journey and story, and I couldn't wait to highlight her here. So welcome to the show, Kate Orara. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and yes, I am with that current position. So you're right on the money, a partner development manager.
Cool. I was like, oops, I didn't confirm that one because you did mention before we recorded new job, and I was like, oh wait, maybe.
No, that's it. I've been in the industry that I'm in, which is the POS, the point of sale, kind of like on the hardware, software side of things, for 17 years. So I've been in the professional realm for 17 years. But this job I started in July, so it's still a little new.
That's awesome. Well, before we dive into everything, I got to ask if there's a ritual you have or something you do right before your heel hits the stage.
So this I had to think a lot about, because honestly, I started a ritual in last year when I went pro, and because I kind of needed that thing to keep me focused. And it's something that it's a saying that I kind of preach to myself throughout my prep as well. And you're backstage, there's all the women around you, and you get kind of caught up in the moment. You see all these other women, you start to compare yourself. Oh, she looks so good, she's going to win, and all that stuff. So my saying, while I'm waiting backstage, I literally just get tunnel vision, and I would say blinders on, execute, finish. So blinders on, don't look at anybody else, focus on yourself, execute, get up on that stage, do the posing routine that you probably practiced ad nauseum throughout your prep, and finish strong, step off that stage, and you know that you basically left everything out there on the table. And you can't be mad no matter what. If you don't place well, then it's not your day. If you do, then you did everything you're supposed to do.
Can you repeat those 3 words?
Sure. Blinders on, execute, finish.
That's awesome. And you just came up with this randomly, or did this come from some sort of reflection?
Probably a mixture of both. I mean, I always tend to ghost during, it's so funny, when I'll compete, I'll step on stage, or I show up to a show, and people, especially a local show where people know me, and they're like, I didn't even know you were competing, because I don't post anything on social media. I'm really bad about that. I'm going to get better. I promise. Now I'm going to get better. But I've kind of realized that whenever I just focus on myself, I put my blinders on. I don't look at anybody else, how they're going to do, how they're looking, how they're progressing. I just focus on myself. And I just need to execute the plan that I've been given. Don't focus on, oh, she gets a refeed and I don't, or her cardio is way less than mine is. Just focus on what I need to do. And if I do what I'm supposed to do, then I should come in the way that I need to in order to finish strong.
Love that so much. That's such an important message, because a lot of times people compare to other people's preps or their improvement seasons or their bodies, their shapes, their size, what's happening backstage or what they're doing to pump up. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you trust the process you have and you know that you're going to be in this for a while, then you can commit to it and focus on you, and ultimately you'll get better results because you won't be distracted.
Exactly. No, and that's been like, I also journaled a lot last year during my prep, and it was, that alone was really helpful. And that was, I would sign off with that blinders on, execute, finish each time, because that was just, again, just a reminder, this is your mantra. Don't leave the
Yes,
mantra.
that's beautiful. What a great way to form an association as well between like your prep and then that moment backstage. It connects you back to all the work you did during your prep since you were journaling about it.
Exactly. It's fun to go back and read through those too.
Oh yeah, I have all my old journals, and when I moved, I had read through some of them and I was like, wow, I'm living that life. That's so crazy. Like I journaled about this and it's happening.
When you kind of read, you're like, wow, I was a basket case then. How did everybody put up with me?
I definitely had a few of those. I did. I was like, wow, that's really sad. I felt that way.
I got that upset over that. Really? Okay, that's a drama queen.
Yeah. And then you're like, wow, good for me. I grew from that.
Exactly. We all grow each time we do, especially doing this sport. It really pushes you towards limits that's why I love it. That's why I've been doing it for so long, is it's pushed me to just another level. It gives me that focus I need outside of the other stuff that I have to do, my have to do's, which is to work and to be a wife and to be a mom. And not that I mind any of those, but you have to take care of yourself and have your own little outlet too. So this is really, competing should enhance your life, not take it all over.
Yes, totally. And I want to get into your journey, but I want to go back to something else you said. You said you're going to post more on social media, but I know you've also posted about sometimes needing social media breaks. So what's like the balance for you, and how has taking breaks maybe informed how you use social media, but also like what is your intention with it now?
So I will say it's grown, as far as, it's not even just attention just for me focusing or trying to, put the word out there and just kind of really keeping my focus on me on social media. There's a bit of a familial tension. So in my family, I have two children. My son is 13, he's in 8th grade, and then my daughter is in 5th grade and she's 11. Now my daughter, she thinks this is all cool and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I even have a YouTube channel. I have like, I don't know, like 50 followers on my YouTube.
I started following you. I watched a bunch. It's awesome.
Well, I mean, I say this, I'm like, I'm a nobody. I have like 1,600 followers. Like, and I don't put a lot of weight on that or anything like that. But, kind of getting back to it, it's that I have a YouTube channel. My daughter thinks it's really cool. My son hates it. And the reason why is because middle school's tough, and you have other kids that they're stalking me to see what my son is up to, know, and I try to, and it is kind of awkward. I mean, I have these sexy photos of me, and it's
yeah, I was gonna say,
it's hard. And so I understand that. So my husband was even saying, like, you need to go back to being private. You need to, do all this stuff. And I understand, but at the same time, the way kind of my platform is that I want to prove to other women that you can find balance, that you can compete, that you can have this lifestyle and still manage life. Like, it is possible to do. So it's a bit of in all honesty, there's some tension there. As far as like when I stay off social media, that's more like a selfish thing. I want to post more on social media. I'll probably be a post and ghost kind of person. So like, let's say if I post something like a check-in, I'll probably just post it and then go and never get back on, just because it's, again, when I'm in prep, which will hopefully, fingers crossed, happen next year, then I want to kind of keep that momentum going so people can see, okay, they can at least track my progress, see how, just, again, maybe find some sort of inspiration or solace in my struggles and strategies and whatnot, whether it's through my YouTube or my Instagram. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with social media. I love it, but it does have, there's so many negatives there's a lot of negatives to the positives. And I never use filters. I do not edit any of my photos. So if anybody says I'm editing my photos, look, I don't know how to use them. So that's not, I am 39. I am, I'm not very tech savvy. So I don't know how to edit my photos. I know how to maybe use the fun filters on stories, but even then it's rare that I'll use a filter. I just am very adamant about that. What you see is what you get. I am raw, real, and I'm who I am. And I'm not ashamed of what I have to offer.
Love that. And I have always been curious. I was actually just talking to another woman who is in the IFBB, and she's got kids, and we were talking about what it's like to have a son and have his friends, like, peeping your page. And that would be really
I'm already told that I'm not allowed to go pick my son up from football practice because they think my mom's hot. Like, I'm not allowed to do that. So it's just like, it's kind of like, okay, so this is a little awkward. So it's like I said, it's middle school rough. Like, it's different. So
yeah,
I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm like, one of these days, and I know my son, he's 13. I know he'll get there. I'm sure later on in life, when he's not in these years, he'll look back and he will see that, we had these all these comments happened. However, my mom was at every football game. She was at every soccer game. She was at every band concert. She was always there for me. She always pushed me. She yelled at me whenever I screwed up and always tried to guide me. But yet she still did all that stuff. And she was able to make these achievements. So I'm hoping one day he'll see that. I'm just not going to hold my breath in the next day or two for him to see that.
The long-term vision.
Yes, it's a long-term goal. Exactly.
How does it look to balance this lifestyle with work and with being a mom and with being a wife?
I make time for everything. If it matters to you, you'll make time for it. And the thing is that you have to understand or even shift things around. As far as you have to prioritize, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. So as much as I love working out, I'd love to go into the gym and spend 2 hours and do whatnot. I don't have the time to do that. I'm up at 4 a.m. even when I'm not in prep. I'm usually up at 4 a.m. I get up, I go downstairs, I take my vitamins, my supplements, I eat my pre-workout meal, and then I'm at the gym by 5 a.m. And I usually get my lift done at that time because I'm an early morning person. I prefer getting up early and getting it done then. And then I come home, I get the kids ready for school, and then I'm out the door, or they get themselves ready. But now I'm like, I guess what I do is I yell at them, get up, especially my 13-year-old, if he's not already awake. I'm yelling at him to get up because we need to go. And then I'm taking them to school. I come home, I work. During my lunch break, I usually go take my dog out for a walk. I love my afternoon walks with her because it gets me out of the house for a little bit, because working from home, which I've been doing since before it was cool, before 2020, I go in and take her for walks, and then come home, do the work thing for a little bit, and then after that it's going to football practice, or we're going to soccer practice, or it's a football game, or gosh knows what's going on. And it's hard. I mean, even right now, this year, because this school year, which started back in August, it's been very difficult because we always try to eat as a family. That has always been kind of our thing, is we need to eat as a family. But I have one kid who has practice ending at 7:15, and another one that ends practice at 8:30. And it's just impossible. It's almost impossible for us to get together, but we juggle it as best as we can. And then whenever I can, my husband and I, we will go on date night at least once a month. That is something that is absolutely prioritized in we make time for ourselves. And we also make sure that we go on at least one adults only trip a year, at least one.
Love
We leave the
that.
kids behind. I mean, we have someone to watch them. Like my in-laws are fantastic. They'll come up and watch the kids, or my parents. But we go off, and we just, actually, we're about to go to Vegas. I have a work conference in Vegas, and my husband's tagging along with me next month. So having that time by ourselves just kind of helps us as a couple, because marriage is that is actually top of the list. I mean, I have my faith, I have our marriage, then my children, and then my career, and then everything else that's ancillary underneath that. So that's kind of the list of priorities. But I'm very lucky. My husband's very supportive of me in the sport. I'm not exactly a natural athlete, so I have to work very hard. I mean natural athlete, meaning like I was not athletic as a child.
I was like, okay.
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. So I'm a natural athlete, but I'm not naturally athletic. That's probably the better way of putting it. I'm not naturally athletic. I was in the marching band in high school and college. I played soccer for a couple years in high school, but I did more on the bench than I did on the field. So I wasn't very good. So I've had to, I mean, like you said, I started, or like during my bio, I started in 2008. I mean, that's really, I've been lifting weights probably since, oh my gosh, since I was 19. So it's been 20 years. That's maybe 2020. I can't do math in my head right now. Maybe 20 or 2000, 2002, 2003 was kind of when I started getting into the bodybuilding thing. And I had, like, my husband really supported me. Like, he would even like read articles on bodybuilding.com because Instagram didn't exist. Like, oh, we should try doing this kind of workout. And so that was just kind of how things evolved. So it's, as far as balancing everything out, it's just, I've learned how to make time throughout my day and every single time that I, every single day, because it's the only way to do it. I make an appointment, like, this is when I do this is when I do that. And I just, it's kind of now a routine that I'm very used to.
That's super insightful. Now, you and your husband have been together since high school, and I imagine there's been a lot of growth as individuals as well as a couple. When did you guys, have you always done the date nights every month, or when did you start prioritizing that, if not?
So yeah, we've been together since we were 15. So we went through a lot of growth. Yeah, a lot of growth. As far as the date night thing, I mean, that was something, I mean, obviously when we didn't have kids, we would go out whenever we wanted to. Like, oh, let's go grab dinner. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like, I mean, you have a lot of freedom when you don't have children. I remember right after my son was born, I had really bad postpartum blues. It was about 6 weeks of, and I unfortunately, like, it's depression, people don't talk about it a lot. And especially postpartum depression, it's very difficult, especially if you've never experienced it. Like, I've never been depressed. I've never been very blessed throughout my life. It's like such a hole. And I remember my husband forced me to go out for dinner. I was like, it was our anniversary. Our son was like a week old. And he was like, we're going to go out for dinner. And I did not want to go. I mean, I still was pregnant, like really bad pregnant, like 7 months pregnant. I'd put on so much weight. I was induced, so I had so much fluid. Like, you'd touch my foot and it was so swollen. And then like their finger indentation would just stay there. It was just really rough. But he forced me to go out, and we went out, and it was a nice dinner. We were out for like an hour and then came home and everything was fine. And so ever since then, like, we just always made sure we tried to prioritize that time together, because at the end of the day, our marriage is like the foundation. It's the foundation of our home. And if the foundation isn't strong, the home will fall. And so we take that very seriously. I am very dedicated to my husband. We have no secrets between us. He is very much a jokester. So we have a very good yin and yang. There are times I'm like, dude, this is not the time to joke. He still has that little grin on his face. I'm like, I can't with you right now. And he's one of those guys that he's just always been there when I needed him. And I'm always there for him as well, but he just doesn't. I think, a lot of men typically don't like to wear their emotions on their sleeves. So there are times that he might be struggling, that he's not communicating with me. And so there are times that it's like pulling teeth. Like, please talk to me. Like, it's okay. If I dump on you, you should be able to dump on me. So, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect marriage, but we're still learning. I mean, we're married now for 16 years and we're still trying to figure things out.
It sounds like you have found your person and you guys are so committed to continuously making it work and show appreciation and value in the relationship. And part of that commitment is also commitment to learning about each other or learning about how to be better for each other.
That openness and communication is just absolutely key. I mean, he's my best friend. He always makes fun of me because I'll always, on October 20th is like our dating anniversary. So we've been together for 24 years, married for 16. And so I'll post something on social media about our, I was like, oh, we were together 24 years. And he's just like, dude, you can't count that. You can't have both anniversaries. I'm like, that was when our friendship was established. So friendship was established on, in October 20th of 1998, and our marriage, our permanence together was established in August 5th of 2006. So that's kind of how I pushed him on things. But he's just kind of a goober like that. So
I love that. I'm the same way. Like, I will have an excuse to celebrate anything.
You have to. You gotta celebrate the small wins, right?
Absolutely. And when did you have kids? So you said your oldest is 13?
He is, yes. So I had my first at 26 and then my daughter at 28. So they're 2 years apart in age, but they're 3 years apart in school because my daughter has missed the September 1st cutoff. So yeah, I was in my, I guess on the latter part of my 20s when I had my son.
I'm 20. I'm turning 26 in December. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Well, I mean, I think we started early. It was funny because when I was ready for, to start a family, my husband wasn't ready. My husband's an engineer. So he's very financially, like, he's very financially, you know what I mean? Even like this competing, he's like, you had to pick this sport, the most expensive hobby that you could possibly do. And I'm like, yeah, but you love it. You like a trophy wife, don't lie. But he was like, oh, we're not gonna be financially ready for kids yet. And I was like, you're never financially ready. Yeah. I don't care if you have your first when you're in your 20s, your 30s, or even your 40s. You're never financially ready for what kids have to offer or what kids throw at you. But I think most people are having, if I had to look, I'd be curious to see what the stats are. I'm sure the average age for most people having kids, it's probably their early 30s. I would probably venture to say like 31, 32 is when most people are having their first these days. They're waiting longer.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's true. And there isn't, I guess, a right time. And my dad always says to me, like, the most impactful or positive thing on his finances was actually having kids. And there's some research that supports that as well. Because you have to be able to provide.
And I mean, right now, especially, I mean, my husband and I are very fortunate in our careers because we've worked very hard to get to where we're at. And I work in sales and marketing. He's an engineer. So we've worked very hard at that. So it's been great because my kids, especially my daughter, she plays club soccer, and that's not cheap. I mean, and there's all these things that our children want to do, camps and seminars and things that help them to get better and to improve, and private lessons and piano. And we've never said no. Like, we've been very supportive of them. But I'll tell you, when they act out or if they're not practicing piano, I'm like, do you freaking understand how much money we're shelling out for you to do this? we're very hard. We're very strict with our kids. Like it's, you know, we're very supportive, but we're very strict. We have expectations. So I'm like, if I'm paying for fucking piano lessons, you better be practicing. So there's that balance. And so our kids don't really suffer for anything, but I mean, it's not that we're not working hard and trying to balance that budget out. That's something that we work very hard to do.
Absolutely. Like you are conscious about it. It's a consistent commitment to managing the finances and the decisions being made, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
just a really great point as well. And it made me wonder when you had said there's never like a right time necessarily. You were already working in the field you're in now, but were you traveling a lot for
Yep.
work at the time?
No, when I had my son, I was in a more of an inside sales position. Um, and it was the company I was with at the time. Actually, I thought I was going to die there. It's like, it still brings a lot of fond memories because it was like a true family. But no, I was not traveling. I started traveling. I got promoted after I had my son. I got promoted, and then I think I got promoted like once or twice more after that. And then I had my daughter, or I was pregnant with my daughter, and then I started. Then my career started kind of pushing me in that direction where I was doing more in-person events, trainings with customers, visits, things of that nature. So actually, I remember I had, thank God, I was actually traveling with my boss at the time, and she had a daughter as well, so she's a mom, and I'd already had my daughter, and oh my God, I hope someone listening to this, and I'm sure moms that are listening to this that nurse their babies are probably going to cringe when they hear this. I was traveling. I had to bring my pump because I was still nursing my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
This dumbass right here, I checked my pump. Like I checked this as a bag instead of doing it as a carry-on. And our flight was delayed. I mean, it ended up being fine. I got to the airport and I was with my boss. I said, I need my pump or a baby right now because
Oh
I'm
my
about to
God,
explode.
you're probably in
So
so much pain.
it wasn't that bad, but it gets worse. So just bear with me. So I get the
Oh
pump,
no.
and like, especially my boss, so she's like, it's fine. So we had plenty of time. We were super early, so I went and pumped, and I was fine. I got everything, pulled out. It was all good. Well, then we went into a meeting. And I was really angry because, and if people that do this, I don't know why they do it, but the people, we had an appointment with them, they made us wait in the lobby for like over an hour. And then by the time we actually got to meet with them, at this point, I'm pumping like every 3 to 4 hours. So by
Whoa.
the time the meeting finally ended, I was just about engorged. Like we got in the car, I was in pain. I was really hurting. And so we were trying, and this is before, I mean, this is circa 2012. So, I mean, like you don't have Waze, like you don't have the slick apps. I think at this point we're still like printing MapQuest directions out. I'm really dating myself. I sound so old, but we're like literally just trying to find like a Babies R Us or something so I could go into a mom room and pump because I was so engorged. I didn't know what to do. And my poor boss was sitting in the car, I swear, for about 45 minutes while I was just like just trying to press the milk out and like some random Babies R Us. But it was really rough. And then after that, I mean, I stopped nursing. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I went ahead and weaned my daughter off and put her onto formula. And I was like, I'd rather be a happy mom. And then rather than just rack my brain out because I had more trips planned. And so I've kind of had to learn that balancing act. That's just kind of like the intro to balancing things out with the kids and the family while traveling. Because I do travel a lot more now for my job.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something that I was really curious about because I was thinking maybe that would have been some resistance, but it sounds like things just really grew and flowed naturally. And now you, of course, are managing your time and balancing everything each day. And it sounds like you make time for yourself, your family, and you listed your priorities. And one thing you said that I had written down that I wanted to talk to you about was faith, and you've talked about how you pray to God to keep your perspective. And I was hoping you could maybe talk more about your faith and how that played a role in your journey and process from starting competing to now, because it's been 14 years and a lot of people would have given up a long time ago, I think.
Yeah, I am thankful to God for him giving me a body that allows me to do what I want to do. I'm thankful for him for giving me just the energy and the ability. Everything else is kind of, it boils down to you, whether you want it or not. It's kind of onto you. You have to understand. And I think so many people get so wrapped up in, oh, I got it, road to pro, I got to go pro. And it's just like, this isn't life. I'm not going to do this forever. I mean, I turn 40 next year. I don't know how much, I'll do this as long as I'm happy and as long as I find balance with it. The moment that I stress out about it, or, well, I mean, I guess certain kinds of stress about it, or where it's no longer fun for me, is the day I hang up the suit and heels. I'm very thankful for as far as from my faith perspective, I'm very thankful that I have the ability to do this, and it's kind of up to me to execute on everything that I want to do. But I have to always remember that that's not my priority. Is the family. My priority is my marriage. My priority, that's where I need to make sure. And there are times, I mean, it was funny, not funny, haha, but funny, weird. I almost quit prep last year because my husband, it did get ahead of me, and I did lose my focus at one point. And my husband, he let me know it. He was angry, and we had an argument, and I remember I said, you know what, if you want me to stop, I'll stop. I'll quit. And he kind of, it was one of those fights that neither of us were innocent. We both had a share. We both had a share in that fight. And he said, no, you are not quitting right now. You're not. We just have to rein it back and get us back to being where we need to be with focus. So is it perfect? No. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is where it should be at this point. But you know what? The day you don't learn anymore and you don't grow is the day you're dead. So I'd rather be learning and growing as long as I possibly can, because that's what's going to help me be stronger, my family be stronger, and then be more successful at all the things that matter in life. And the pro card and everything, that's just icing on the cake. Like, it really, I keep saying this, I am a nobody. I really am no one famous or anything like that. I'm just someone who doesn't give up. I'm just someone that when I want something, I know how to put my head down and put in the work that needs to be done.
Did you ever feel like you had to have more influence to be successful, or did those types of thoughts come up, or like imposter syndrome?
Not really. I guess the reason why is when you look at the judges, I mean, how many of them, as far as to be more successful from the competing standpoint, it's not like I see, I follow Sandy and Tyler and all of them. It's not like you see them posting all the time. I guarantee you they're not scrolling all the time. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I think, eventually, yes, now that I'm in the pro leagues, I'm going to need to get in front of them more and be more, get them more familiar with me. But do I think it's necessary? Absolutely not. If you get up there, you get up on that stage, you bring a banging package, you pose and you do exactly what you're supposed to do, and they can't take your eyes off of you, then it doesn't matter how many Instagram, they don't have, not above your head, there's no number that says this one has this many Instagram followers and this person has this. They don't have that up there. It doesn't matter. Now, not to poo-poo on those with large social media followings. I mean, I give them all the credit in the world. You have to bust your butt to get to that point. That's a lot of work. I don't have the time. I don't have the time, and I don't post enough. The thing is the algorithms, don't get me all techie things because I'm not exactly a techie person, but there's algorithms and you have to post and you have to do reels. It takes me like an hour to make a reel. And that's it takes me so freaking long. So, and like apparently right now, reels are the way that helps you get moved up in the algorithm. No, your girl ain't got time for that. Like, I'm just gonna move on. Like, that's a no.
Oh, that's
So,
so cute.
But yeah, I think some people, and that's what you want to do, then go for it. But you just have to understand that, yeah, there is a lot of work that has to be done to build up your following. So do I hope that I can build mine up, and maybe, and for me, I want to build up my following so I can hopefully inspire other people so they can see that, oh, well, I just need to give up. No, you don't need to give up. I mean, maybe you should. It's not the sport is not for everybody, but you want to put it all out there and at least put it, do the most you can before you take that step. Like I said, I almost gave up. I've almost given up a couple of times, but I just was like, I'm not ready to be done yet. I think that there's still something there. I still think that I can do it. And I guess it's when you're crazy people like that don't give up, that they end up reaping the benefit eventually.
Absolutely. I think you've made some really, really great points here. So number one, if you're only chasing the pro card and not embracing everything your body's doing for you and the way that you're supported, and maybe having faith in a higher power or celebrating what you've been able to accomplish. And you also emphasize the point of prioritizing other things in your life that matter and making sure that the chase doesn't take away from that. And I wanted to touch on that point and hear from you what you noticed changed in you last year, where it almost got the best of you, or where it got a little bit ahead of you.
I think what happened, so I had to lose a lot of weight in 2019. I had a really rough prep. Well, I had a really bad rebound in 2017, 2018. It really is a long journey. I promise I'll get there. So 2019, I had to lose like 40 pounds in my prep. That was it was a grueling prep, but it was what I wanted. And I remember competing at Masters Nationals, and I got like dead last. Like I probably shouldn't have stepped on stage, but I did it. And then I came back for North Americans and went from last callouts to first callouts, and I placed sixth, so I missed the top five. But I was so excited. I literally was like, wow, I did it. So then I took my reverse super seriously and then came back in 2020. Well, we all know how 2020 went, so I'm not going to sit there and sugarcoat it. It was a rough prep. I started in January, ended in November. It's a long freaking prep. But at every national show that I did that year, I was placing in the top five. Well, I finished second at North Americans, and then I placed fourth at Masters Nationals and fourth at Universe. Then again, really took my reverse seriously, did a very good job, went into 2021, and it was just different. It was like, I never really sat there and was like, I'm going to go pro, but I had a good feeling. It was almost like I kind of knew, I'm like, this really might be my year. This really could be it. The way that my body was coming in, the way that everything, and that started to take forefront. Like, I could win this. I could finally win this. And that it just almost became an obsession, because then everything else kind of fell to the wayside. My husband was cooking all the dinners for himself and the kids, and he was running them gosh knows where, and he was taking on the brunt of all the work, which is not fair. It was not fair to him at all. And he basically called me out on it. Now there were some other things that kind of happened. I won't get into that, but like I said, it was one of those arguments where it was kind of a two-way street, but it got ahead of me because I really thought, it's like there was that, I guess, I don't want to say arrogance, but maybe it was a little bit of arrogance. Like, I'm going to be pro. I'm going to do this. And I had to be like, okay, rein it back. You're not a pro yet. And even if you are a pro, guess what? You're still gonna eat, you're still gonna sleep, you're still gonna bleed blood, you're still gonna, you're still gonna go to the bathroom. Like you're not gonna be any different. You're not gonna make any more money. You're not gonna do any. It's just not gonna do that. It's not gonna open all these doors. It's not like it could open doors, but it's not like that. And I had to kind of have that self-realization because if you look at me now, you'd be like, oh, okay, so you're a pro. I'm still a human being, and at the end of the day, it's like what are you going to do with it? Yes, I'm a pro, but what can you do that's going to help benefit others, right? So for me, it just was more of a realization that I had to take a step back and remember my focus, remember the blinders on, execute, finish, but then also understand my priorities.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long way to get there, but I knew I was going to get there. So that's kind of what I think what happened with that is that was and the fact that that's another reason. If it gets to the point where it does consume me, where it's everything, then it can't continue because it's not meant for that. Competing is meant to enhance. I keep saying this. It's not meant to take over your life. It's meant to enhance your life. It's meant to give you a focus. It's meant to give you a goal. That's how I view it.
I absolutely agree. And so now, what are some of those things that you've maybe at the very beginning of the episode, you did mention you've learned a lot, it's taught you a lot. What are some of those lessons that you've learned, or maybe the mental or internal gains that have been made through this process?
Oh my God. I'll tell you, I always tell people I have lost more shows than I have won. And that is fact. I'm looking actually in my office, I'm looking at the trophies and things that I've earned. Yes, I've done 10 national shows, but I've done a lot of other local shows. I don't have hardware from those shows, not as many. But it has humbled me. It has really helped me to understand that, yeah, my what does stink. Like it's just like everybody else. And I've fallen in love with the process, and I really have been amazed to see what my body is capable of if I take care of it. If I take care of it, whether I'm competing or whether I'm in my improvement season, if I'm not going off the rails, eating everything in sight, I am, obviously enjoying time with my family, enjoying food and whatnot, but I am, if I just treat my body well, it's going to reward me. And so I think that's been kind of the biggest thing. It's like now I'm able to just kind of enjoy life. And taking this off season, I remember telling you this when I saw you, like I took the time off, but I needed the break. My body needed the break, obviously, from competing after 2019, 2020, and 2021. Like my body was tired, but my family needed a break. Like we all just needed me to step away and take time away just so we could focus, get back to kind of like a little bit of some, normalcy or a chill time before diving in, potentially in 2023. But that's just from one of the things I've learned. I think the main thing, just kind of as you asked, what the main thing that I've learned is just what I'm capable of. And I'm capable of a lot more than I even still think I'm capable of.
That's a really powerful lesson right there. All of those things that you shared are very meaningful, and it's important that we can recognize like when we need to step back, but also celebrate all the things that we've done and the things that we've been able to commit to. Now, what is it that you're hoping to accomplish as a pro?
Oh man. So I plan on competing in the open division, which I know is going to be hard. I went pro in the Masters. So I want to compete in open, maybe earn that Olympia qualification, who knows? But I'm not going to set any sort of, expectations. Obviously I'll set goals. But I'm not going to sit here and you know, I went from being, you know, the best of the amateurs to now the worst of the pros. And I did my pro debut at the Masters right after, I don't know what's called, the Masters Pro Show. That's right after Masters Nationals back in 2021. So I have had a pro debut, and I did well. I placed, you know, I got first call outs. I was sixth. So I missed that top 5 placing, but man, was I tiny. I mean, Masters competitors, the amount of sheer muscle that they have, it's insane. And so I look like a little shrimp next to them. So right now, just I'm really trying to grow my glutes, which they have no chill. Like, they grow pretty quickly. So it's almost like I have to like grow them and then pull back. Growing my shoulders. But I would love to just see how I stack up in the open league. But I am sure it's going to be an uphill battle. But you know what? It took me this long to go pro. You know, go from amateur to pro. So what's another 5 years, right? Like, what the hell? Like, let's just see what happens.
Exactly. Like, you're already in it for the long run. You like the lifestyle. It's adding to your life. You're having fun. Might as well.
Yep, exactly.
So you did mention some of your improvement seasons were not everything you would have hoped for them to be. So, and it sounds like you grew a lot from that experience. So can you walk us through how you've structured your preps and how you've structured your improvement seasons to support your efforts and maybe some of the things that happened along the way?
Yeah, so I had a really bad rebound after my season in 2017. I had prepped myself previously before hiring coaches up until 2015. So, and even then, like, I guess I kind of reverse dieted. The thing is that the more you compete, and if you don't reverse properly, each reverse gets worse, and then each prep gets harder. And it's how it kind of stacks up. Well, finally, I hit my prep in 2017. I rebounded bad. I was eating all the foods, and then 2018 came around, and I was gung ho about competing, but I put on a lot of weight. And at that point, I was like, I just want to compete just because I don't like how I look. Right. So you've heard that story before. I'm sure everybody's heard that story before.
Of course.
Especially you. You probably heard that a lot. I started prepping, and my body was like, no, honey, we're not doing this. So I got blood work done, and I got the blood work back, and I was so mad because it came back, and I was super healthy. All my hormones, everything looked so good. And I was mad. You know why? Because I just wanted a pill to fix it.
Yeah.
That's just like encapsulates what society is. We want a quick fix pill. We want Amazon Prime, next day delivery. That's all we want. And my husband gave me a metaphorical slap in the face. Like, are you crazy? So you want something to be wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Again, one of those situations where he's having to like kind of rein me back in the center. Like, seriously, you're going to be upset about this. And that's when we decided, okay, my coach and I at the time we're okay. We're gonna stop. We're just not gonna compete. We're just gonna take time off and let the body recover. And that's what I did. The whole year 2018, I just literally, I still worked out. I went to gym. I started CrossFit, kind of dabbled into that for a little bit, and just was mindful with my food. I'd have free meals and gosh knows what. And then 2019 came around, and my coach and I decided, all right, we're going to compete. But I was very scared because I was like, I failed so badly. I fail a lot. And the thing is, you have to not be afraid of failing at this sport, because you're going to fail a lot. If you don't, then the moment you do fail, it hurts really, really bad. And I've seen it. So I was already really nervous. I'm like, I'm afraid to fail. I was like, no, let's just take it slow. So I started my prep in January, and we chiseled. And I was traveling for work while in prep a lot. I went to London and Paris while I was in prep. Found a hotel when I booked the hotel, because my husband and I spent some time, we did our adult only trip in Paris that year. So I found a hotel with a really good gym, and I was able to structure my workouts through even while I was on vacation. Went to Disney with the family. So I was able to do Disney and still be in prep. And I just chiseled away, and then had like I said, lost 40 pounds from start to finish. Mm-hmm. And then, so in 2019, when I did my last show, which was North Americans, started reversing up. But I took everything slow. I was very adamant about my reverse. And I did not put on that much weight. I still was able to enjoy foods. I still got my food up, but I refused. I was like, if you want to be a pro, it's like the saying, if you want to be a pro, you got to act like a pro. It's like, look, I have to act this way. I have to act the way I want to be one day. And then 2020, the prep was so easy. I mean, even with it being, 2020, with the shows being canceled and moved and shuffled, and you're standing on a tent or standing at a stage under a tent, like all that crazy stuff, like I was still able to prep, and my body just was burning through the food. Like I was actually reversing into my shows. So I started looking better each show. And the same thing after Universe in 2020, took my reverse very seriously. And I almost didn't compete in 2021. I thought I was going to take 2021 off, but the feedback from Sandy was so positive that I was like, what the hell? Let's give it one more whirl. And like I said, in 2021, I was ready early. I wasn't going to do Universe last year. Like I thought I was going to earn my pro card at Masters Nationals. I was like, no, I'm not going to do Universe. And my coach Casey was like, you really should think about doing Universe. And then my posing coach Laura was like, oh, you better do Universe, because I did a local show and I cleaned house. I did, other than the overall, I cleaned house. And so with my Masters and my Open. And so I was like, I guess I'll do it. And I live in South Carolina, so it's Charleston, which is 3 hours away. I have family down there, so it's not hard for me to get there. So I was like, all right, I'll do Universe. And I was like, I'd already booked everything. I'd already booked my flight. I'd already booked all my stuff for Masters Nationals. I'm like, what's going to happen? I'm going to have all this stuff booked, and I'm going to go pro at Universe. And then that's what happened. So wow. It was a very pleasant surprise, but I was still able to just kind of shift things around so I could do the Masters Pro show that weekend. But it was the reverses. That's when I think it's the most important. The prep is important, don't get me wrong, but you set yourself up during that improvement season. If you go ham during that improvement season or whatever, it's so hard to come back from that. And the thing is, it just, each time you do it that way, it just gets worse and harder and worse and harder. And then that's when people are like, oh, bodybuilding ruined me. It's just like, no, it didn't. You just didn't have the control. And it took me a while to figure it out. But when I got there, oh my gosh, again, it's just like right now I'm in my improvement season. This is the first time. I mean, it's been over a year since I stepped on stage. I'm super happy with my look, with my shape. Like it's, I'm comfortable, I'm confident in my skin. I'm perfectly happy with it. So if you take it seriously, you'll be successful, but you can't you have to really focus. And it's a lot. It takes a lot of mental work to do that.
It's so true. I always say that it's not so much about control as it is about congruency and making sure those actions we take are aligned with the beliefs we have about ourselves, the person we want to become, the person we are demanding of ourselves to be even today, and the values that we have in our life, because we want to enjoy this. And a lot of the times when we live by, I should do this or I have to do that, it doesn't feel like a choice. And if we don't choose to, let's say, follow through, or we don't see the reasons for following through aside from, I just don't want to rebound, or I just don't want to look a certain way, that's not very inspiring. So it sounds like you've found your groove. And I'm wondering, how this looks for you compared to past. Like, what does it look like now to be able to go out to eat or enjoy food or spend time with family, but also making sure you're on top of your goals?
So I have mastered the eating out. I actually get mad when I hear people say, "Oh, I would love," like especially people in my industry. They kind of they know that I do bodybuilding and stuff, and they always say, "I travel too much. I could never do what you're doing." It's not easy, but I'll tell you, once you figure it out, it's super easy. So a lot of times, like especially going out with the family, like I will, if we're, especially my daughter has soccer tournaments, we will go to a soccer tournament, or we'll travel to games, whether it's in Charlotte or Columbia or wherever. Like we do travel for games, and I'm not, unless I'm in like super prep, which I'm not right now. I usually don't bring my food. Like I'm like, I can make it work just about anywhere. If we go to any sort of like bar and grill type of place, like is it like a team dinner or something like that? Like I can totally, I'm like, okay, I can order a grilled chicken, no oil, no butter, just salt and pepper on the salad, dressing on the side. Don't, hold the croutons. Like I've mastered how to order in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
However, I have free meals during the week, and I will move my free meals around based on activities with the family. So like for instance, tonight, my husband has family in town and we're all going to go out for dinner. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to have a drink. I'm probably going to have a burger and fries. Your girl's going to enjoy some food.
Good.
But you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to get right back on it. I just go back right on my regularly scheduled plan. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I know if I want to eat healthy, I know how to do it. I know how to order something from Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Olive Garden, Carrabba's, just about anywhere. I can figure it out. There are some places that are harder than others, but for the most part, it's not that difficult. And sometimes you do, because I'm in improvement season, I can eyeball things. Like I can just kind of like, all right, I'm going to get grilled chicken, asparagus, and a plain baked potato. And then I just kind of plug it in my Fitness Pal like estimates. I mean, at this point, since I've been competing for so long, I kind of know like approximate portions. And then what I'll do is I'll usually go lower on the carbs whenever I travel, because I know that I'm going to eat more fats. So I just kind of swap fats for carbs, and then make sure that I really focus on my protein intake. So that's it's like, again, it's taken me a while, but it's one of those things that's trial and error. And then once you kind of figure it out, it's kind of invigorating. It's like, I can go anywhere. Whether I'm going to eat good, or if I'm going to enjoy myself, I know how I can do it. It's not hard.
Yes. And I think it gets overcomplicated just because of how we're perceiving it, or because we don't have a lot of experience with it. But once you get used to it, or you practice and you're willing to make mistakes, because sometimes you might eat too much or too little, or you might track one thing and realize it doesn't really fit properly. But if you're willing to go through that learning process, you'll end up in a place where everything does feel even more sustainable and more flexible.
Yeah, and I that's part of the YouTube. That's another reason why I started the YouTube, was to kind of, like, I try to do videos of when I'm traveling. Like I think I've done one video when I was on a work trip last year, just kind of showing, because I do, if sometimes I do bring meals with me because it's just easier and I enjoy them. And I just, some of the catered stuff at some of these events, it's almost too heavy. So, I do try, that's something in my YouTube that I wanted to get better about. And hopefully I want to kind of get back into doing it again, but just kind of educating and sharing with people that it's possible to eat out with your family and, go travel for work and still hit fitness goals. Whether it's competing or not, you can still manage that balance.
Absolutely. And I think that's really cool that you're able to live by example and show people that too. And you've been doing this for so long. You've had ups and downs. You've been able to get through them and stay committed and ultimately achieve your goal. I would love your opinion on the evolution of this sport and bikini since 2008, because you've witnessed it go from not even being a thing to now being bigger than the division you started in. And there's so many factors at play. It's just a more popular deal now. So what do you personally think about it all?
Well, I can tell you this, the little figure girl that competed in 2008, I probably have about, I don't know, 10, 15 pounds on her. And that's even when I'm lean. My first bikini show, so I competed in 2008. They launched, I competed in figure in 2008, and then they launched bikini in 2009. When they launched it, I remember it was like in November. And I was so excited when I saw that division. I was like, that's my division. That's what I want to do. I mean, the reason why I even got into bodybuilding was I did pageants when I was in college to help pay off student loans. I loved the stage, but I absolutely hated the people. There are some people that were absolutely fantastic, but man, pageants, I mean, that's when people talk about bodybuilding and some of these competitors. I'm like, oh, they're nothing. You've been to Miss South Carolina? That's just no big deal. But when I saw bikini come out, I was so excited because I'm like, I don't need to get that big. This is the perfect division for me. But then I found out I was pregnant with my son like a few weeks later. So it's like, well, guess I'm not competing in 2009. So 2010 was the first time I stepped on stage as a bikini competitor in an off the rack suit from Victoria's Secret. And, I was tiny. I mean, I probably wasn't even, I was a teeny tiny little thing. And the evolution of the sport, even since then, I mean, I took a break after that in 2010, and I didn't compete again until 2013. So there was a big gap in between there where I had my daughter. And then by the time I came back in 2013, so that's 3 years later, the division had already evolved significantly. And then I was like, okay, I remember I did 2 shows that year, and my prep was just, like I said, I was prepping myself. It was really bad. It was like, oh, I'll just eat green beans and chicken and call it a day. But there's just more to it. And then I was like, you know what? I need to really figure out this bodybuilding thing. And so I bought a bunch of ebooks and just really trained, built muscle and whatnot, and then came back in 2014. It's crazy to see how it continued. It's not even just so much the look. I mean, the posing. I mean, the physique is one thing. You have the physique, the overall look. I mean, nowadays, you remember you used to see the dangles on the connectors. You don't see that anymore. There used to be, I mean, even at one point, you could get themed bikinis to wear on stage. Little Mermaid theme or Elsa theme or Wonder Woman. Like that was like a thing. And that's no longer a thing. I sound like such an old fart. Some of these newer competitors like, what are you talking about? But
no, it's awesome.
It's
we need the history. It's so cool.
Well, what I crack up about, and I say this about teenagers these days too, you know, you have all these teenagers, like, I don't know about you, but when I was 13, 14, I looked so freaking awkward. I had an ugly stage, darn it. I had an ugly stage. And I see all these 13 and 14-year-olds, and they're not ugly. Like, no girls, like, they're all, like, my son, and maybe I'm biased, like, he's handsome as hell. Like, I mean, my daughter, I'm like, wait a second, you have to have an ugly stage. It's the same thing for competing. Like, I have those stage shots, those stage shots.
I know
like,
those
oh
stage
God,
shots.
what was I doing?
Oh,
and
Lord.
It's not fair. You have all these girls that are now stepping on stage and they have their shit together. Like, no, you have to go through the ugly stage too, damn it. This is not fair. So
I know. I'm like, what happened to taking like?
I'm proud.
Yeah, there's a lot of like there's so much evolution that's come, but now with the education out here, whether it's the podcast like this or it's blogs or it's social media, we know better, or new competitors are better equipped. Whereas like, and I started in 2015, and that's when it was kind of on Instagram, but like it was still just, it wasn't what it is now. But I agree. I think a humbling phase, a humbling season can do us some good.
Yeah, you see the posing too. I mean, that's changed so drastically. I'm like, what the hell was I
So
doing in that
drastically.
photo? Why am what's that transition look? I don't get it. But you know what? You said something too about the education, and I think in a way, and I kind of hope that this is the case, because if you don't, like, I keep telling people, you need to take the post show just as seriously as the prep. And I think I'm hoping that that's what a lot of these new competitors are doing. They do see how important it is when they're not competing, how much more important that is to set them up for success, whether they're going to continue competing or not. So, because again, there was a time, I think a couple of years ago, where that bodybuilding was getting a bad rap. It's just like, it ruined my life. It ruined me. It destroyed me. It did this. And it's just like, but did it really? Are you really, I mean, is causation, correlation, are we really making that, is that really the case? And maybe it is, as I said, it's not for everybody, but I think that, because there is so much spotlight now on social media, on it, I'm hoping that, yeah, maybe people are more educated on it. I mean, I'm lucky, I'm still here standing, but it does make me a little jealous. I'm like, dude, you're supposed to pay your dues and have those awkward stage photos. You're supposed to have the pictures where, why did I put tanner on my face and the makeup on top of it? Why does my face look like a mud pie just got thrown on it? Like, it's just not fair.
True. Oh man, that's funny though. It's so true. I think it's like that education all around, not just with the way we look, but also how we approach things. Like even bro science isn't a thing, and well, it's still a thing, but it's less of a thing. And then you have, like you said, the education around like post show, more people have had those experiences. And then I am with you on the bodybuilding not ruining people. I always I mean, I was a jaded competitor at one point after my very first show. I was, competing ruined me, competing this. And then I took a step back and actually took responsibility for my life and my actions and my choices. And I was like, oh, it was easier to blame bodybuilding because then I wouldn't have to actually look at what I did and the role I played. And that means I don't have to acknowledge that I make mistakes or I'm vulnerable. And then I ended up taking responsibility, and I was like, wow, I actually really miss the sport. I want to do this again. It wasn't bodybuilding. It was my preconceived beliefs, things that I actually brought to bodybuilding and the beliefs I chose to take away from it. And now it's like, I can't imagine not doing it. I just love it so much. I want to do it forever.
Yeah, it's that accountability thing is, it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you kind of want to blame something. It's just like the blood work. I wanted something to be wrong. I wanted something to be wrong so badly, just so I could have a quick fix. And there was nothing wrong. I was in perfect health. I just had to, it was like God saying, like, no, you're fine, Kate. You need to figure this out. You need to get your head back into things and figure it out.
That's exactly right.
It's kind of hard pill to swallow. So I didn't have to take a pill. I just had to get my head right.
It is the hardest pill to swallow because there isn't one. It is purely going inwards and saying, what do I need to do? What do I need to change? I mean, even with the education now, and like, shameless plug, but like, I do a really great job with competitors on their mental health. And when I work with competitors or when I hear from competitors, there's still so much resistance to getting help in this area because they would rather invest in the next like diet plan, the next training plan, but no protocol is going to give you the peace that working on yourself and developing a relationship with yourself will bring you. And that's what ultimately will sustain your results for the long term. But until you work on what's actually leading you down these negative paths or leading you to continuously sabotage or let yourself down, you won't ever get the breakthroughs needed to then move forward and have the success you want.
It took me so long to go pro, but I'll tell you, it happened at the perfect time. It really did. And it's because it was that self-reflection and just having to embrace what the journey was bringing me. And it was that my path is not somebody else's path. And honestly, I'm so grateful for it. I am super grateful for it taking me as long as it did, because it really helped teach me my resilience and what I'm capable, like I said, what I'm capable of.
Wow, that's awesome. And there was something, I wanted to ask what the feedback was that you had recently received when you did make your pro debut, and what you're hoping to bring over the next couple months before you maybe start a prep in 2023.
Yeah, so I'm tiny. Like I said, I mean, you see the amount of muscle that is on like the bikini pros. I mean, at the amateur level, you have some. I mean, I think this year in particular was pretty insane. The competition pool was smaller, but the talent was very deep. I mean, I wasn't competing this year, but I was following everything. I was following every national show and watching these girls pro, obviously. And of course, I watched the pro shows and who's getting first call outs and whatnot. But overall, my feedback, the look was great. That Sandy told me she really likes my look. So she enjoys that. She said the posing was fluid, was good. So I just need to grow my upper body, kind of like my shoulders, rounder shoulders. And then my glutes, I need to develop them more. Right now, when I lean out, I have to have something there when I lean out. I have to be the leanest I've ever been, but I'm going to have to be the heaviest I've ever been on stage. So I need to have more upper glute, outer glute. Like I actually have like the middle glute is perfectly fine, but I don't really have like tie-ins right now. Like they were very, like I had them, but they weren't like as pronounced as the other pros.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really having to grow that. But it's been fun. Like I love lifting. I actually train also with a friend of mine here locally in Greenville. Shout out Daniel Quattlebaum. But I work out with him, and he's really helped me with focusing more on the lift and like moving my hands or my feet in certain directions to target the muscles in a different way. So like I will say I would just kind of, I don't want to say I would go through the motions, but I thought I got a good workout in. But then he would have me do something with my hands, like when I'm doing my shoulder raises, he would have me do my shoulder raises differently. I'm like, holy crap. Like I'm actually seeing like a delt pump going on. Like I'm seeing like the changes in my hamstrings. So, sometimes it's good to kind of get some outsider help to kind of help with you to learn how to target the muscles more differently. But I mean, that's really where my main feedback was to bring out my shoulder. I need to bring up my shoulders, and then I need to build, like, have that glute hamstring separation type of thing. Not like striations by any means, but I needed to build that up. So, and it's funny because I even saw Joe Pishkula not too long ago, and his feedback to me was, he's like, on from the front, the same thing. He's like, you're dead on where you need to be, except you need to bring up, maybe a little bit more of your lat and rounder shoulders, and then the glutes. That's where he was picking me apart, was making sure that I had more development in my lower glute, upper glute, and outer glute. But the middle part is nice and bubbly. which I guess I have a butt. Like I just have a big butt naturally. So it doesn't take much for me to lift. And my husband sometimes is like, do you really need to be lifting your glutes? And I'm like, yeah, I do, because when you lean out, you have to have something there so it shows. So that's what I've been working on. It's been fun though. I eat and I train. That's what I do.
That's right. That's awesome. I love that. It's really the lifestyle. And if we can fall in love with every season that we get to have as an athlete in this sport, we'll go very far and accomplish that, as you have proven.
Yeah, it's not, I tell people all the time, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. I mean, there are some people that they'll go pro and they'll go to their first Olympia after their first pro debut. And you know what? That is fantastic for them. That's not my journey. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why that's not my journey. And I just have to appreciate that, and then understand and just get to where I need to be, where I find that self-fulfillment. And for me.
That's right. Now, Before I ask you for your best advice, is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
No, I think we covered just about everything. I know that, like I said, I talk a lot.
Oh no,
But
this has been awesome.
but yeah, no, I think that we covered everything. I just want people to understand, like, or just to, again, there is a way. There is a way to live this lifestyle and still have that balance, especially those women out there that are moms and are wives, and it's just, don't let it consume you. I think that's my, that's kind of the biggest takeaway for people, is just to kind of hopefully inspire them that they can have this lifestyle and still be okay.
I know that is so true. And I just love that that's like the mission you're inspired to share and be an example of. And you have given us so much great insight and so much great advice on many different realms of your life. So can you leave us with your best advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to, and then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
So I've heard, like, again, listen to your podcast, and everybody's advice is like spot on as far as like finding the coach, especially if you're a new competitor. But for the newbies, you need to prepare for the post show. You need to make sure when you hire your coach or whomever, or you're coaching yourself, whatever you decide to do, make sure that you prepare for that 6 to 8 weeks post show. If you've never stepped on stage before, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, but you're not going to regret doing it. Either way, you need to prepare yourself for 6 to 8 weeks after the show to make sure that you get yourself back to maintenance, you reverse. And that's just a minimum, but that's something that I think is extremely important for a new competitor. And then as far as those that are road to pro, act like a pro in your off season and reverse properly. Don't go crazy, after the show, or, if you didn't get the placement you want, don't be blaming the judges. Don't be blaming anything else. Get the feedback, get back to work, act like a pro, eat the foods, reverse yourself up. Don't get yourself like 15, 20, or don't get yourself like 20, 40 pounds, 50 pounds above saved weight, and then expect to go pro the next year. You need to focus on what your body needs for you to improve and get better for the next season.
Love that. And can you let everybody know how they can connect with you moving forward, or maybe follow your journey?
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram. My IG handle is Kmoon Orara. So the letter K, M as in Mary, OON as in Nancy, ORARA. And then, of course, my YouTube, if you just search for Kate Orara, you'll find me. I don't have a ton of videos. I promise they're coming. I got a couple other things I got to get squared away first, and then I'll start creating content again and hopefully get some information out there for y'all. So that's the way you can find me.
Awesome. Well, I will put that in the show notes page. So everybody listening, that is on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized, and you'll be able to find not just those links that she's mentioned, but also a full breakdown of the episode, from a summary to timestamps, as well as all the topics discussed. So that way you can refer back to it or let other people know what they can expect when you share it. Always appreciate you guys tagging us as you listen, or letting us know what your main takeaways are or were. And if you have any athletes you want to hear on the show, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions, even though I record very far in advance and you might have to wait, or maybe they've already been recorded with. I do appreciate that. So you guys can message me on Instagram, celestial_fit. With all that being said, Kate, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Yeah, me too. I absolutely loved the time we got to spend when we met, and I am very much looking forward to hopefully seeing you again here soon. And to everyone listening, hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world where you're listening to this episode. Just